Morning, everybody. My name is Jason French, and I am one of the solution managers at De Laval throughout North America. And we're pretty pleased to be sponsoring once again the virtual tour here at World Dairy Expo. We'd like to sponsor many things as well as a Knowledge Nook that takes place in the section just behind you. We want to bring that educational aspect of things so more people can learn about the producers that we're working with, the dairies we're working with, and they have a lot of the same, goals that we're looking for. When we manufacture our equipment and technology, we're looking for that animal welfare aspect of things. We're looking to help with overall profitability on dairies, and we're looking for that ability for these farms to be successful going into the future. So you're going to hear from one of our dairies that use our equipment, and we have many, of course, across the United States and around the world. De Laval celebrated 140 years in business a couple years ago, and we continue to innovate, moving into the future with the values that we want to, have for our dairies around the world. You're not here to listen to me, but we're happy to have the McCarty family give their story, and I'll just hand it right over to Caleb, and we'll get going. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Clay McCarty. I'm co-owner of McCarty Family Farms, fourth generation dairy located in northwest Kansas. A little bit about our history. My dad's actually in the back. Like I said before, we're fourth generation dairymen. My great-grandfather started milking cows in northeastern Pennsylvania. Slowly, over time, you can see the progression. My grandfather took over in the mid-40s. And my mom and dad were actually both school teachers by trade. And when my dad got out of college, he worked part-time at, I shouldn't say part-time, he worked in the evenings with the idea of eventually starting his own operation, which he and my mom did with Elmglade Farms. We realized pretty quickly, I think, as my older brother and I were getting out of college, the question was, what are we going to do? We were milking about 200 cows in northeastern Pennsylvania. Really no room to grow, limited opportunity, I think, for any of us. And my dad was convinced we needed to look someplace else. We looked a little bit in Nebraska, western New York, I believe. Is that dead? Okay, it's back. A little bit in Texas, but eventually Kansas was kind of the place where we thought we should be. And I give my dad credit. He actually let my brother and I, who didn't know much of anything, kind of make the final determination of where we were going to be. We were looked southwest Kansas primarily, and then when we went to northwest Kansas, it just kind of felt like home. So in 2000, we broke ground. Well, in 99, we broke ground on basically a 1,200 head dairy with ideas that maybe it'd be a 2,400 cow dairy at some point. Then the reality hit that we were undercapitalized and really didn't know what we were doing. So it was a long process for us, slow growth from 2000 to 2008. In 2008, we actually were approached by a small town, it's actually Bird City, that was looking to basically stimulate the economy in their small town. So they invested in my brothers and I, loaned us the money. We turned around and took that and used it as our collateral to build Bird City Dairy. So at the end of 2008, we were actually milking at the Rexford location and the Bird City location, milking about 3,500 cows. In 2009, we added a heifer operation at the home place in Rexford. But we realized then that we were kind of in purgatory again. What we had found in Pennsylvania, we had found in Kansas. We were kind of stuck. We weren't doing anything that we felt was very unique or different. And we realized that, hey, something needed to change, or we needed to be thinking about doing something different. At the time, we were working with the Cargill Dairy Enterprise Group, and we expressed our frustration about not being able to valorize our product or valorize ourselves. They introduced us to Dannon, ultimately, And over time, we developed a relationship with Dan that it really has transformed our family's business. We purchased another dairy in Scott City in 2011 because we were going to build a milk processing plant. And in order to fill that plant, we needed more cows. So in 2012, we started shipping milk to Dannon. We built an evaporative condensing plant, which we had no idea what we were doing. So it was a gigantic leap of faith, both on Dannon's part and on our part, because obviously we were dairymen, we weren't milk processors. They had the wherewithal, I guess, to believe that we would be able to make that happen. So in 2012, we started shipping condensed skim milk to Dannon, to their factory in Dallas. It worked surprisingly well. The goal was 500,000 pounds of milk a day, and by the time, I guess we ended up starting to get better at it. So we ended up being able to process about 685,000 pounds of milk a day. So we added another dairy in Beaver City, Nebraska in 2014. So then we were actually on 3 different, well, 1, 2, 3, 4 locations at that time. And we realized that, hey, we had to continue to separate ourselves from just the industry. That's always been something we've tried to do, is try to be innovative.
Yes.
And, oh, there's my brother Ken in the background, actually. In 2017, we got our non-GMO project verified certification, and we also have all of our Validus animal welfare certifications as well. Dannon would express an interest for us to continue to expand. So in 2018, we partnered with a family, the Vantelberg family in Salina, Ohio, and opened MVP Dairy. And we also opened a learning center there that we're pretty proud of. We really wanted to be able to tell the story of not just the McCarty family, but the Van Tilburg family, but also the story of the dairy industry in Ohio and the dairy industry in general. We also opened a learning center there that we're pretty proud of. We really wanted to be able to tell the story of not just the McCarty family, but the Van Tilburg family, but also the story of the dairy industry in Ohio and the dairy industry. And we also opened a learning center there that we're pretty proud of. We really wanted to be able to tell the story, not just the McCarty family, but the Van Tilburg family. Sorry, it was repeating. You didn't want to hear that twice. But anyways, pretty proud of. We really wanted to be able to tell the story.
We're trying something new, so you guys are our guinea pigs. Okay. Should be fine. That's what I thought last time, though.
All right, we're going to try it again. Okay, so we opened our learning center in 2019 and at the MVP Dairy. And if anybody's been to that facility, I think you'll understand why we're so excited about it. It's a very unique way to view the dairy industry, and also for us to tell our story. And Allie, the girl that just jumped up here to save me technically, she's a big part of that back there as well. So in 2020, we were the IDFA Innovative Dairy Farm of the Year. We also became B Corp certified. And in 2021, we were also Best for the World in B Corp. So after watching how the MVP operation ran and the efficiencies, B Corp certified. And in 2021, we're all, yeah, I'll keep going.
You can just blame Ken. We'll blame Ken.
Okay. So basically, MVP Dairy kind of became the footprint of what we wanted to do in the West. You know, we were multiple site dairies, all parallel parlors for the most part, and all needed an upgrade. And anyways, we started construction in 2021, actually, on the Rexford 2.0 dairy, which is a 10,000 cow dairy, tunnel ventilated, 2 120 stall De La Val rotaries. And we also opened a learning center there as well in 2024. I'm going to see if this will work. Okay. I'm one of 4 brothers. Ken, who's on the back end of this, you'll hear from him. He's live in our barns in Kansas. My brother David is our CFO, And my brother Mike is in charge of the operations at the Bird City Dairy and our heifer operation in Nebraska. We have 5 different farms: Rexford, the original location; Bird City and Scott City, both in Kansas; Beaver City, Nebraska, which has transitioned to a heifer facility for us; and our partnership dairy in Salina, Ohio. 230 team members. That's across the farms, the processing plant, our office staff, trucking, et cetera, et cetera. Roughly 6,000 acres, corn, wheat, sorghum. Our total herd size is about 37,000 now, which is a far cry from 212 in 1999. So we've seen some pretty massive growth. Been fortunate to meet a lot of great people in the industry that have really helped us mature and grow. We're making about 1.5 million pounds of milk a day, which is always a work in progress for us. Oh boy. What you're seeing right now is our new dairy 2.0. This is located in Rexford, Kansas. We have 2 sides, the east side and the west side. Milk about 5,000 on each side. The east side is kind of our high side, where all of our fresh cows, low cows, and soon-to-be dry cows are milked on the west. The interesting thing about this facility is we actually calve everything for all the operations. Our Bird City Dairy, our Scott City Dairy, and a percentage of our heifers are calved here for our dairy in Ohio. So we average between 60 and 80 fresh cows a day, which I know most people in this room can appreciate what that means. It's sometimes just absolute chaos in our calving area. We were having a calf every 20 minutes in August, roughly. You can see as we do this flyover, our feed center, we're actually chopping silage when this was taken. We're all flush, tunnel ventilated, inverted 6 rows. So it's kind of not a traditional design. We're happy with the way we can, ultimately, after watching the MVP operation, we realized as far as cow comfort, this was how we wanted the West to look. It was about a 3-year build, which was extremely challenging on a lot of different fronts for all of us. As you can see, we're actually, they are putting a digester on site. We don't own the digester. Our role in that is obviously just to provide manure. Well, we can't really see it, but this digester will receive all the manure from the new dairy on the north, but we're also going to pipe and pump all of the manure from our old dairy on the south, which as you do the drive over, or the flyover, you'll actually be able to see the old dairy on the south side. The digester should come online by the end of the year. They're going to inject gas just right on the county road where the telephone poles are. There's a high pressure gas line, so we're just going to inject right there. Our separator building here, we have 3 double slope screen Ag Pro separators in there. We're screening off about 150 to 180 tons of manure a day, fibers, which we then take to the corner of one of our fields. We turn it. I wouldn't say we compost, we more or less condition just to take water out, and then apply a lot of it on our own land, but we also export a fair amount of manure to our neighbors. You can see here's a picture of our commodity barn. When we designed this, we looked at multiple setups all across the country. And what we did here is when we built it, I thought, boy, it's too big. It's the size of a football field. And I'm already short about 3 or 4 commodity bays on each side. So I think everybody can relate to it's never too big. The design on this, were 2 batch boxes, and we're still dumping into Supreme mixers. And then we mix that and go to the barns. We're actually feeding 15,000 cows between the north and south side, and we're doing it with 3 mixers. We can turn a load of feed out of this barn in about 11 minutes. One of the things that we did in this design was we wanted to make sure that the guy that's mixing feed would be totally uninterrupted. So on either side of our commodity bays, there's room for a semi or two semis actually to pass. So all of our deliveries can come in on the outside and we can continue to mix feed on the inside. One mistake that we did make in this is when I originally designed it, I wanted to have slope so that everything would funnel towards the middle, just let gravity do its thing. But as these things go in a build, it always costs a little too much. So when we had to make a compromise, we flattened the floor. And I can tell you, I would never do that again. It should have been sloped. Right? Yep. Okay, I think my brother Ken is going to jump on here now. He's actually live in our Freestall Barns, and he's going to go through some of the things that we think make that facility unique. Ken, are you there?
Hey, everybody. My name is Ken McCarty, and I'd like to welcome you, along with all my co-hosts, to explore our farm with us. I'm coming to you live from Rexford, Kansas, where McCarty Family Farms is located primarily. Here we are in one of our 8 newly constructed freestall barns. We created a little bit of an innovative barn design here, designed explicitly to optimize cow comfort and well-being, as well as the well-being of our team members. So in this barn, we're going to have approximately 1,200 cows, 2 pens of 600 cows. This is what's called an inverted 6-row tunnel ventilated flush freestall barn. So while that the best airflow that we have for optimizing their cow comfort. What that also means is that the feed lane is on the exterior edges of the barn, somewhat non-traditional in terms of what you would normally see in a 4-row freestall barn. For optimizing their cow comfort. What that also means is that the feed lane is on the exterior edges of the barn, somewhat non-traditional in terms of what you would normally see. We have approximately 1,000 fans across this entire, keeping a steady wind speed of between 7 and 9 miles an hour. This maximizes cow comfort while minimizing any sort of fly pressure. We also have the added benefit, and what's kind of present in the dairy industry today, we don't have any birds in this barn. So for those of you that are familiar with Northwest Kansas, you're familiar with the fact that it can get extremely hot here. We see all signs of the apocalypse in terms of weather, 45 below zero, to 115 degrees, to 100-mile-an-hour winds, to 4-inch rain events, to blizzards, to tornadoes. We get it all. But we've designed these barns to basically minimize the exposure of our cows and our teams to those types of weather events. So it's a forced air ventilated barn. Like I mentioned, roughly 1,000 fans. Misters to sprinkle over top of our cows. We use smart cow cooling here, which means that as the temperature increases, the frequency of the sprinkling increases as well. In essence, what we're trying to do is maximize cow comfort while minimizing the amount of water we use. And all these things are really great, but we also know that we have a responsibility and we have an exposure to the public. And while some of these more technical aspects of the farm may not resonate with consumers, or visitors to our farm, we do put out a great deal of environmental enrichments in our farms and in our pens because we know that those not only enhance the livelihoods of our cows, but they resonate with our visitors. Such environmental enrichments as rubber matting on all of our crossovers to increase cow comfort, scratcher pads on our end posts of our crossover fences. And while those are designed to give the cows something to scratch on, what we end up seeing them do more often than not, like this cow over here would be doing, is they chew on them. So I haven't really figured out why they do that, but that's kind of what we do. We also have multiple grooming brushes in all of our pens. Pink, because we have a bunch of ladies in here and we know that pink is their favorite color. We also have what are called island mount water troughs, which allow cows to access these water tanks from both sides and increase their water intake. Free choice salt and bicarb, deep sand bedded freestalls using recycled sand that we reclaim through our own gravity sand settling lanes, and also flush freestall barns. So we use recycled gray water on our farms to clean the cow stands in the alleys where the cows are at. We flush these barns multiple times a day, and that does a few fold things for us. One, it allows us to very easily and with a minimal mechanical intervention clean these freestall alleys. It also has the benefit of decreasing the temperature in these barns by a few degrees post-flush every time we flush. So in the hot Kansas summers, it's an added benefit of a flush freestall barn. But because we're a flush freestall barn, our barns are built on roughly a 2% slope, meaning that from the top of the barn to the bottom of the barn, our pens are sloping and dropping about 20 feet. Total length of these barns would be about 950 feet long. So we drop about 19 total feet top of barn to the bottom of the barn. Now, for those of you that can see my co-host behind me here, you'll notice that we have multiple tags in our cows. We have obviously double dangle registered herd tags with a unique farm ID. We also have in the left ear of the cow a blue square tag, which is the De La Valle behavioral analysis tag. That allows us to collect very cow-specific granular data from every cow. Data points such as how much time they're spending in the freestall beds and lying down, how many steps they take, how much time they spend eating, how much time they spend in the parlor away from their pens, how much time they spend ruminating throughout the day. And all of that feeds into a system which allows us to manage our cows, manage a lot of cows on a very individualized basis. So we use this system for our heat detection, for our lameness detection, for our illness detection, and also for optimizing the performance of our cows. So we use it to evaluate the impact of diet changes on rumination and rumen health. We use it to assess animal welfare and time away from pen and time lying down. We use it to assess feeding strategies and what impact that has on feeding times. So we use it for a variety of different things. But what you'll also notice in this cow in here, for example, she has a purple tag in her ear. What that means is that in the month she was born, via our genomic testing program through the Clarified Plus platform, she was determined to be one of the 100 best animals, genetically speaking, in the month in which she was born. And we use not only that genomic data, but also the ranking that we place those cows into to inform our breeding decisions. We are the largest registered herd in the world here at McCarty Family Farms, and we take a great deal of pride in milking registered Holsteins and breeding cows, foundation cows for a sustainable future. And what that means to us is we breed for a moderately framed cow that's highly productive in terms of milk production and component traits, stands on 4 excellent legs, and carries a long-lasting, high-tight udder. We also don't lose focus on breeding animals that are highly reproductively efficient and possess high health traits. But we also try to focus on emerging traits that could be of value not only to our farm, but the industry in general. Traits such as enteric methane production, feed intake, those sort of things, with a heavy focus on creating optimal milk proteins such as A2A2. But what'll happen here is as we genomically test our cows and we rank them, we rank all breeding age animals from top to the bottom. Approximately 50% of our herd, the bottom 50%, gets bred to beef semen and creates beef on dairy cross calves that'll leave our farms day olds and enter into the traditional beef supply chain. The top 50% of the herd basically gets broken down into a few different sections. The lion's share of that top 50% gets bred to high quality, what we would consider general population, sex semen Holstein bulls. Still advancing towards our genetic goals, still providing tremendous progress in genetic improvement, but are bulls that are readily available to anybody within the industry. An additional portion of the breeding population gets bred to next gen young sire bulls. Basically, what we're trying to do here is create a very elite forward edge of our genetic bell curve. And then additionally, we take the top 1% of our herd and we put them into what's called a unicorn program or an embryo program, where we either create embryos for implantation or sale, or we're attempting to create the next generation of extreme outliers to create extreme genetic progress within our herds. But a few other things that we do here on our farm that are really geared towards animal welfare and animal performance and team member performance is really designed around our feeding strategy and the way our barns are designed. So we're going to step out here and we'll show you a few things on our farm. So as I mentioned before, these are inverted 6-row tunnel ventilated barns, meaning that the cows are actually feeding on the exterior edge of the barn. But because we want to do a better job of controlling basically the ambient weather, all of our barns are sided with polycarbonate UV panels. They allow in the natural light, but they also block out harmful UV rays. So they help maintain a nice cool temperature in the barn, minimize the exposure of our cows to harmful UV rays, but still create a very well-lit environment. Additionally, within this farm, as an effort to try to increase sustainability and minimize energy use and maximize cow comfort, we do what's called long day lighting. Our cows are exposed to basically 16 hours of daylight equivalent and 8 hours of moonlight equivalent. Obviously, there's a balance of keeping productivity and work happening on the farm in a safe manner. So we have deployed sensors throughout this barn to not only measure and monitor air quality, particulate matter, ammonia emissions, and those sort of things, but they also measure foot candles of light to ensure that our cows are in the environment that optimizes their welfare and their performance, while also creating a safe environment for all of our team members to work in. But here at McCarty Family Farms, we try to not only measure data and manage our cows on a cow-specific basis, but we also have a feeding strategy designed for meeting their needs at their age and stage of lactation. So we work with independent nutritionists from the Cargill Animal Nutrition Team, and we design diets to basically fit the nutritional needs of where those cows are at within their age and lactation. So here on this half of this farm, all the cows are going to be on the high diet. Basically, these are cows that are post-fresh pen and not quite towards the end of their lactation. They're going to be fed anywhere from 4 to 6 times a day, and we're going to use an electric tractor to push up feed roughly every 90 minutes, 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year. But additionally on this farm, we're going to have a few other diets. We're going to have a fresh cow diet, we're going to have a low cow diet, and then for mature cows, we have a far off diet and a close-up dry cow diet. We also have diets geared specifically for pregnant heifers and for Springer heifers. So we're doing the best we can to meet the nutritional needs of these cows wherever they may be in their journey at McCarty Family Farms. We do frequent feed testing multiple times a week. We're using an on-farm John Deere Harvest Lab to measure and monitor dry matter of all of our forages to allow us to dial that diet in to be as specific and accurate as possible. As all you dairymen obviously know, feed's a giant part of our budget, but it's also a giant part of our environmental footprint. So the better we can do at managing to a highly accurate degree what goes into the cow, the lower our environmental impact will be, and obviously the more competitive we'll be from a budgetary perspective. So as we walk up through these barns, you'll notice that obviously we don't have any headlocks here. We've designed this farm to allow the cow to be the cow. So through the DeLaval BA system and the activity tags that we use, what we strive to do is only work with the cows that we have to work with, as opposed to our traditional 4-row headlock freestall barns where we lock an entire pen up to work with a handful of cows. Here, we allow these 600 cows in this pen to come back to the pen as they so desire, and we only pull out through sort gates, which we'll see later when we go into the parlor area. We only pull the cows out that we need to work with. And we've taken some additional steps, which you'll get to see here in a few minutes, that minimize the amount of times that we have to push those cows or have those cows come through the sort gates. So our entire philosophy here is to manage for the cow and allow the cow to be the cow. We don't want to interrupt her day. We want to give her as much time to socialize with her herd mates, sleep her 12 to 14 hours a day, eat whenever she wants, drink whenever she wants, and spend as much time as she would like grooming on the grooming brushes and rubbing on the scratcher pads. So, looking forward to showing you guys the rest of our farm and the parlor system. And for now, we're going to kick it back over to Clay to answer a few more questions for you and have a few more conversations. And we'll meet you guys here real soon in the milking parlor.
Okay, I'm going to give you a brief overview of our condensing plant. It's obviously grown over time from where it started in 2012 to what it is today. Currently, we're receiving about 1.4 to 1.5 million pounds of raw milk a day. We reclaim all the water through well, there's 3 different processes. Water is reclaimed back from the milk either through the original process, which is evaporative condensation, or with our new expansion, we put in membrane technology, so we can do RO and UF milk. It's reduced our trucks by 75%, and we also have the ability to reuse all the water, either for CIP in the plant, flush water on the south side, or we can irrigate back out, or put it back through our heifer tanks. The plant is nearly water neutral, but not totally water neutral. We're still trying to determine that. One of our bottlenecks currently right now is we could actually process closer to 2.2 or 2.1 million pounds of milk, but we can't actually get it through the door fast enough. That's our biggest bottleneck right now. You can see in this picture, the old part of the plant is kind of over on this side. This is all added on. We need to add another receiving bay so we can get more milk in the door. But right now, our goal was to process all of the McCarty milk in the West that's produced through our own plant. Prior to this expansion, we outsourced probably 400,000 to 500,000 pounds a day, and now we can actually process all of our own milk. Currently, I believe we have about 35 employees in the plant, so it's a pretty efficient operation. It runs 24/7, 365, just like the dairies do. And one thing we realized is when you have a breakdown, you have a problem, because you have a tidal wave of milk sitting outside, and it just keeps coming. So there's been some challenges, and I think as dairymen, most everybody here can appreciate that you never quit milking, so you never quit processing. So it's a unique part of what we do. It's not really, I guess if you'd asked any McCarty 20 years ago, would we be processing milk? I would have told you absolutely not. We had no idea that we would be at this position today, but it's definitely made our business kind of a hybrid. There's not too many farms that literally right in the middle of the dairy have a milk processing plant, and not a small one. What you see behind our plant is actually the original dairy and heifer yard. We have converted that now to where we calve all the fresh cows, so everything's freshened on the south side, and we still raise a bunch of Springer heifers as well. What do we go to next?
It's just a flyover.
Okay, we're gonna do a flyover of it, I guess. Yeah. So this is taken from the north side, and you can see the, yeah, obviously here we go now. That's our processing plant. The old dairies to the side, we actually still use the parlor there. All of our non-saleable milk, any hospital cow that's identified on the north side comes to the south side and is milked in our old parallel barn. Okay, I'm gonna kick it back over to my brother. I believe he is back in the parlor. Perhaps. Okay.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Here we are in the milking parlor here at McCarty Family Farms at Rexford 2.0 in particular. We milk on 120 stall De La Valle rotary. We depending on the pen, we'll operate this parlor with approximately 4 to 5 individuals. What we have happening here is basically the prep and stimulation on the front end. So we use a future cow wet gun to basically clean, disinfect, and begin the stimulation process on our cows. And then as the cows travel on through, they're gonna pass in front of multiple air blowers that'll be drying the udder down on the cow. We have 4 air blowers at this parlor, drying off the udder, drying down the cow, furthering that stimulation process. And then at the precise time that we want it to be, we're attaching units. We run this rotary at approximately 5 seconds per stall, which at this speed, we typically need 2 attachers with which to maintain, to keep up with the speed at the parlor. We have what's called StimiPulse on this parlor that we're using currently. And the way that functions is basically as the unit is attached, the system will take control of each individual unit and flutter, in essence, the inflation to increase stimulation on that cow and hopefully increase milk let down and milking speed. So cows are going to travel on through the parlor here. And what you're going to notice is around the attachers button, that unit's going to be colored green. If, for example, there were to be an improper detachment, a cow were to kick a unit off, or something weren't operating correctly within that unit, that is going to flash a different color, basically alerting our team members that, hey, you need to come and take a look at me and you need to fix me. A few interesting tidbits about this parlor. This parlor, when fully loaded with cows, weighs as much as an empty Boeing 747. And approximately every 2.5 years, because we operate 24/7, 365, this deck is going to travel the circumference of the earth. So our girls, while they're being milked here, are traveling a long ways. Total milking time while these cows are in this barn is roughly, I'll say, 12 minutes. Actual unit on time is closer to about 5 minutes. At this farm, our cows are highly productive. This half of the barn's producing between 95 and 100 pounds, depending on the season. Our component levels are averaging approximately 4.25 to 4.35 butterfat and about 3.3 to 3.35 protein levels. Highly efficient in terms of the number of people that we have on here to milk the number of cows that we're milking. And as you can see here, what we're observing as we're walking through is once the system detects that the animal has dropped her milk production below a certain threshold for a certain period of time, the vacuum's going to shut off, the pulsation's going to shut off, the unit's going to delay itself for about a second and a half to allow that vacuum to dissipate within the unit, and then it's going to automatically remove itself. You'll notice a few other things for creature comfort while we're in here. All of our carousel decks are rubber matted to allow the cows to be more comfortable while they're being milked. You'll notice that we also have blue plastic spreaders that basically encourage the animal to stand with her legs apart so that we can more easily access and more safely access her udder to attach the units. We're walking by right now a system that we've deployed across our parlors that allows us to basically minimize the number of cows that go through our sort gates. This is what's called the Valley Ag Parlor Boss system in conjunction with the Pulse needleless injection system. What this allows us to do is any sort of vaccines or other shots that we have to give, we can give right here with no needle sticks while they're in the parlor. Tremendous labor savings, tremendous time saver for the cow, drastic improvements in terms of biosecurity as well as BQA. So it's a win-win-win on multiple fronts. But also, in order to try to be as labor efficient as possible, we've installed a couple different robots here, post-dip robots. So these robots alternate assignment per stall. And what these do is they have photo eyes that basically sense the cow passing by, and they will actually be the ones that apply the post-dip to our cows. When we've done studies basically comparing our human-driven post-dip versus the robotic post-dip, we're equivalent in terms of accuracy, but this allows us to save 1 to 2 individuals per shift. We're going to take a stroll up and show you guys kind of the sort area, the parlor entrance, and the holding pen. We're right here at the end of the most recent pen that we're milking. But what we're seeing here is the exit of the parlor. We have a 2.5 stall entrance, basically separated. So we're trying to optimize cow flow onto the parlor. In our experience, it takes about 3 days to train a new heifer to go on the carousel by herself. So as I mentioned while we were in the freestall barns, in order to try to minimize human and animal interaction and maximize the cow schedule in the pen, we've implemented the parlor boss and pulse system, but we also have sort gates here that are reading as that cow walks through the gates. They're reading her tag, and if the computer has said she needs to be bred, she needs an intervention, she needs a scheduled hoof trim or anything like that, or we're going to sort her off for movement to a different pen, what have you, the computer does that automatically for us. Highly accurate system that is a huge labor saver and a huge schedule saver for the cow. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kick it back over to Clay, and we're going to head over to our learning center and ultimately wrap up with a little bit of Q&A.
So one thing that we've been pretty passionate about, I think all dairymen are to a certain level, is to be able to tell your story. And you know, hey, the interesting thing about Northwest Kansas is, hey, really we're the only dairy north of I-70 in the entire state. So, well, in that region of the state, I should say. So dairy's is a novelty in essence, I think, for a lot of people out there. So for us to have the opportunity to mirror image what we did in Ohio, where, hey, we can tell the story of who we are and what we're trying to do, and let people, instead of them forming their own opinion, we like to try to help them form their opinion about not only ourselves, but the industry in general. So we built what we call the Judy McCarty Learning Center. It overlooks the East Side Rotary, where we are doing exactly that. We are sharing our story, pointing out the good things that we do in the industry, the things that we do that are a little different in the industry, but also, you know, talking about some of the challenges that are specific to Northwest Kansas. You know, water, for instance, is perhaps the biggest challenge that we're ever going to have as a family. We also, well, actually, we just opened officially about 6 months ago. We give a lot of school tours. It's just kind of kicking off, but we hope it mirrors what we did in Ohio. My mother was always a big believer in conversation, I guess, and we build it really with her in mind. Yeah. Anyways, I believe Ken is actually going to be back in there, and we'll walk you guys through it. There's a really nice timeline of who we are and how we got our start from, you know, 1907 to we left Pennsylvania with 212 cows. So we've come a long ways, and this is a great way for us to showcase that, but also to be proud of who we are and what we're doing. Yep, Ken is back.
Okay, so here we are, everybody, in our Judy McCarty Dairy Learning Center. As we talked about, it's named in honor of our mom, the original tour guide, as we like to say. And what we're trying to do here at this learning center is really give people a behind the scenes look at how our farms and how the dairy industry and how the food production industry in general puts food on people's plates. Uh, we're trying to tell our story, but also be good representatives and stewards of the dairy industry as a whole. So what we've done here is we've really given people kind of a view of the flow of milk on our farm, as well as some of the environmental enrichments that we bring to our cows, what our cows are eating, answer various Q&As, talk through some of the history of our family throughout the dairy industry, clear back to the early 1900s to where we are today. Do industry factoids representing not only where our milk goes, but where all the dairy products in the country go, and why dairy is a good choice in terms of nutrition and cost benefit and an overall environmental sustainability. And then, nothing is complete without games for the kids. So we try to have games for the kids in terms of, understanding the genetics of a cow, the value of dairy, why dairy is good for them, why they should eat more cheese sticks, more cups of yogurt, and drink more glasses of milk. And then photo opportunities, stories about the way water is recycled and used on our farm, viewing windows with which to be able to see where the milk is going, history about our family, facts about the economic impact of the dairy industry within the state, and the truth behind family-owned farms. And again, all of this was really done with the intention of trying to take responsibility for our role within the dairy industry and be a good steward of the dairy industry and of our farms. I think we're all painfully aware that, fewer and fewer people are connected with where their food comes from. So our desire is to help tell the story of food and really try to be, like I mentioned before, good stewards of the dairy industry. So here we can give everybody a bird's eye view of the parlor. As I mentioned before, obviously this is a 120 stall DeLaval rotary parlor. Pretty darn good fill rate right now, so I'm glad to see that. But cows on this farm are producing between 95 and 100 pounds of high component, high quality milk. And for now, what we'd like to do is kick it back over to you guys and answer any of the questions that you may have.
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, like he said, we're open for questions now. If you guys have any, fire away. If not, that's great. We won't complain. Yes, ma'am. Why Holsteins is what she's asking, Ken. Well, I think you'd have to ask my dad in the back. He started down the Holstein route years and years ago. We've toyed with the idea over time of, hey, his feed is a challenge, right? Especially in Northwest Kansas. Hey, should we be thinking the crossbred route, jerseys, something a little bit more feed savvy for our area. We're pretty passionate Holstein guys, I guess. We were born and raised that way, and that's what we know. I don't know if we would know anything different. We do have one brown Swiss we're pretty proud of, though. She's just a flyer. We're not quite sure how she even arrived at our farm, but we're keeping her. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Your Parlor boss, is that, were you just marking cows to vaccinate, or was he actually vaccinating?
Actually vaccinating on the wheel. Yeah, so what we ran into, needleless, pulse needleless injection system. And, the big challenge, the reason I think it's so important for us is, to Ken's point, hey, we only want to touch the cow that we want to touch, right? And what we were running into is, hey, I couldn't get done in the parlor. I'm like, what's the problem, right? Well, the problem was we were sorting so many cows through the sort lanes, I couldn't get cows off the rotary. So by adding that system in and eliminating, hey, honestly, probably 50+% of our sorts, we've really been able to streamline the efficiencies. And hey, from a cow handling standpoint, the needleless injection system, hey, it's amazing to see how it works. The cows literally, versus the old days of a syringe and a needle, This is much, much cleaner look. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Can you talk about with the four brothers, what's the future? What does it look like? Expansion? What are you guys thinking?
Yeah. So he's asking what the future looks like for the four of us boys, whether it's going to be expansion or what. And I think we all have a little different take on that. 10 years ago, and we never imagined we'd be where we are today. So every now and then it's like, when's enough, right? The old saying is it's never enough. Well, right now I feel like we have enough. Hey, are we looking at expansion? I think there's always something. We're actually going to put a soybean roaster in at 2.0. So we're always looking for efficiencies. Do I see a massive dairy expansion in the future? Modernization. We have two facilities, 60 stall, 25-year-old Gia rotary that's, it's at end of life. Double 35 D Laval parallel, that's at end of life. So I think we went from saying we were going to consolidate those two farms to saying, hey, maybe we should just build new parlors. The capital it takes to do anything in this dairy world right now is crazy. And, it's not just financial capital, it's human capital. If you ask, I think the four of us, what our biggest challenge is right now, it's human capital. Hey, we live in a pretty remote part of the world where not a lot of people want to come call Colby home. And maybe Ken would have a different opinion on that. I don't know if he's listening or not.
No, I think Clay's exactly right. The goal is always to try to drive improvement, right? So, optimizing and creating value out of our genetics, for example, finding ways in which to add value or drive revenue off of everything that we produce on our farm, whether that be cull cows to beef calves to high quality Holsteins to manure to you name it. I get less concerned about the financial capital that it's going to take to expand, and more concerned about the human capital. Human capital is the thing that keeps us awake at night because it's so hard to find anymore.
Yes, sir.
Your feed supply, it doesn't seem like you have enough acres to cover what you need.
So he's asking, about our feed supply and, not having enough acres to be self-sufficient. You're exactly right. We're not. We are big buyers. We like to say we have a lot of farmer partners. We can produce or grow about 40% of our corn silage needs on a good year, which Ryan Aberley's our nutritionist. He's sitting right here. He's noticed this year we did not have a good forage year. Drought, we've had about a 3-year drought, so that's made that problem a bigger problem. And then you throw in the fact that we are non-GMO. So we can't really go to the market and just buy corn silage in the middle of harvest, right? So we have to sow up our acres and our tons basically a year in advance. And that's made a tough situation even tougher. So we import, part of the reason we chose the site that we built 2.0 at is there was a grain elevator located in front of it. We bought the elevator and it has rail spur. So our plan long-term is we're not there yet, but we would like to rail in commodities. It's the efficiency and the cost, but it's also given us access to a market that's not there currently. So, Ken, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, hey, in particular as things like environmental sustainability and traceability become a bigger and bigger deal, having committed farmer partners or committed growers that can help us access the kinds of feeds and the volumes of feeds that we need while being able to provide ideally, the data associated with what it took to grow that. We think there's a lot of opportunity in that, but not everybody's cut out for that, right? So we're always searching for partners with the right mindset in terms of who's going to provide feed for us.
Anybody else? I think we're done. We did it in an hour or two.
Any other questions?
Oh, yep. One more thing. I'll get yelled at if I don't tell you. On the back table, there's a yogurt parfait bar set up. Please help yourself. There's some koozies and some flyers about kind of our genetic stuff, and help yourself to that on the way out. And appreciate De La Val for giving us this opportunity.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for attending. Hope to see you in Kansas someday.
Yeah, thanks, Ken, for your work there too. But yeah, I thought that was a tremendous, well done. Good for you, and certainly envious of all the stuff that you've done for your overall family and putting yourself in a good situation. So yeah, thanks for attending. We really appreciate it. There's lots of people with De La Val clothing on here. If you have any questions about our solutions that you saw here, thanks for showing off the pink swinging cow brush. That's a campaign we did to help raise some money to go to cancer research with that program, and we'd be happy to talk to you about anything that you would need. So have a great day. Hopefully we can see you tomorrow. We're in the Knowledge Nook. We're going to be talking about how De La Val uses AI, and we have some people that are there talking about their experience with the De La Val Plus behavior analysis. Have a great day. Thank you.